Today, as you've heard, our office conducted a massive nationwide takedown from 2 indictments of 34 defendants for their alleged involvement in 2 separate illegal poker and sports betting schemes where, as you heard, the odds were rigged in their favor. Among these defendants are 13 members and associates of the Bonanno, Gambino, and Genovese crime families, to include capos and soldiers from these families. Additionally, as you heard, current and former NBA coaches and players are also implicated, to include Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier.
Well, that's going to be water cooler talk in the morning. Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, Damon Jones, all either implicated or indicted on federal charges involving the mafia, prop bets, and rigging poker games. And by the way, the feds were very clear that this is 2 separate cases. It's not necessarily that the allegations with Rozier and Jones and Chauncey Billups were, quote, rigging. It's that they were using insider knowledge in order to gain an advantage for prop betting. Now, rigging is an aspect to it, but it's not the full story. And just to be even clearer, Chauncey Billups has not officially been named. He was arrested, but he has not officially been named as of the moment of this broadcast in this entire lawsuit. It's somebody with a similar playing career. That's how that works. A similar player career and coaching career to Chauncey Billups. And it implicates him because there was a situation where in 2023, when it came to the Blazers, supposedly there was information out there that they were tanking the season and that there were key players who were going to be sitting out in March of 2023. So that whole scenario played out with that. And as far as Terry Rozier goes, you may recall that he's actually been investigated for a while now. Back in 2023, they were investigating the alleged situation with him. And they were alleging that he sat out during at least one ball game where he was trying to work the under on the prop bet. And for those who don't know what the under is, like let's say between 2 teams, there's going to be 88 points scored. Right? Low scoring game. Let's just make it easy. So that would mean if you bet the under, then you bet less than a total of 88 points between both teams. You can bet the under on how many points or rebounds or assists somebody's going to have. You can bet the under on almost anything. Is it going to rain today? There's a 30% chance. I'll take the under. 0%. Right? So that's the way that the under and over work, okay? And that happened between 2022 and 2024. By the way, they claim that at least 7 games where the under was going on, they used insider information to help prop bet those games. It was between the Lakers, Raptors, Magic, and Hornets. And by the way, it's been implicated now that one of LeBron's former coaches, Damon Jones, actually used his insider information or non-public knowledge. Yeah, LeBron's going to be out. He's got an injury. Or LeBron's got an injury that he's going to be playing on. That's what all of this amounts to. That's the long and the short of it. A lot of red tape. Now, what does everything mean to me? Well, honestly, nothing yet. Just because somebody got arrested, just because somebody got named, just because somebody's dealing with something does not mean that they are guilty. You are innocent until proven guilty, and I'm going to stand by that. Now, if they're guilty, forget about it. But I'm telling you right now, I like to live off of, let's just wait and see how things play out. This is the correct information. because I know what's going to happen in the morning. A bunch of people who read headlines are going to be hooting and hollering about Chauncey Billups without even realizing that, sure, he got arrested, but his name's not even in any of this. At least not yet. Now, the feds can say whatever they want to about calling it a weird case and all that, and I'm not going to say no to that. The whole thing is bizarre. But I like to live under, let's wait and see what happens. By the way, speaking of allegedly rigging games, the SEC has suspended a referee, Ken Williamson, who I guess allegedly told somebody before the game that he was going to retire this year. I guess they're using that to say, well, he knew that he was going to rig something, and so now he's going to use that as retirement money. And all this really stems from one big play, right? It was the Georgia-Auburn game. Was it late in the second quarter? I think there was 1:37 left. They tried to QB sneak it on the goal line when the ball got punched away by a Georgia player. And initially, it was ruled a fumble and recovery. Now, kid ran it all the way back just in case, the refs were going to let it play out and score a touchdown. They ruled it as he, not being able to run it back and score the TD, but they ruled it as a fumble. And then, of course, he was approached, the referee was, at halftime by somebody from Auburn who said, hey, look, man, how was that not a touchdown? That ball clearly crossed the plane. Me personally, I think it was a tough call. And me personally, I think that whenever you call one of those on the field like that, it's going to be really difficult to overturn. Now, from some of the angles, does it look like it was 6? Yeah, but I think it was a very bang play, and I think it's really hard to call. Now, I understand that's why you have replay, right? Because you're able to slow it down, get different angles, take different looks. I think it was bang, and I think a play like that, the way that you call it initially, you have to stick with it. And I've said a million times that you can't always blame officials. I understand that a lot of people are going to say, look, that play changed the course of the game. Folks, Auburn did literally nothing in the second half of that football game. Now, I'm not saying that there's the potential that it didn't completely alter the trajectory of the football game. But what I am going to say is this. You still have Georgia pinned very deep. You have Georgia taking snaps where the quarterback is literally 2 or 3 yards in the end zone, not under shot, but under center. He's not even in shotgun or pistol. He's literally under center. Your defense still has a chance to make a play there. And they had umpteen opportunities in the second half. And by the way, I don't know how much football anybody's been watching for Georgia over the last couple of seasons, but Kirby Smart's teams generally don't give up, and they do very well in the second half of football games. He might be the best coach in the NFL at adjusting in the second half. I'm not going to say that it had no effect, but I am going to say that it's all about coaching, and at some point, we decide who the better coach is. And how do you prove who the better coach is? In situations like that. One coach was able to rally his guys. Another coach couldn't keep his guys with their head on a swivel, and they ended up losing the football game. That's all I'm saying. And I think that we need to look at it realistically. Now, whether or not a referee deserved to be suspended for the entire season or not, I don't know. Beyond that, there was also an alleged mistargeting penalty that didn't happen that also worked out in Georgia's favor. And with what's going on in the NBA right now, a lot of people are going to be looking at this and going, do you see how easy it is to rig games? Now, look, here's the thing. I will tell people all the time that sports inherently is not rigged in terms of a script. You are never going to convince me that somebody or somebodies sat down in a room, got together, hung out, colluded, and wrote an entire script for a football season from top to bottom. NFL, college, NBA, college, baseball, college, softball, college, because they do have a pro softball league now. You're not going to convince me of it. WNBA and college, it's not going to happen. Too many mouths to keep shut. Look what's going on in the NBA. Tim Donaghy, he got busted how many years ago? Somebody's going to say something, right? And that's what happened in this situation with the NBA. Eventually, somebody's going to say something. You can't keep everybody quiet. It's impossible. You understand? Somebody's going to be willing to risk it all. Whatever that risk is, they're going to take it. And I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen. But I would be a fool if I said that individuals can't get together and create situations by trying to maneuver money or whatever the situation is. I think Michael Francesi is probably the best in terms of discussing every facet of situations like this. And what he will generally discuss is in today's game, it's really difficult to convince and pay off players and coaches because the money is so crazy, but they can go after officials. And this could be a situation where somebody went after an official. We don't know. But I think that there were a lot of tough calls in that game. And I think that it's easy to point the finger at the officiating in that game without actually looking at Auburn and seeing that they self-destructed. I'm not saying it was a clean game by the officials, but did it warrant a suspension for the rest of the season? I don't know. You could take what was said by Ken Williamson about being able to retire this year as he got a payday, or I'm just going to retire this year. I don't want to ref anymore. I can't do it physically, mentally, whatever it is. In a game like that, in a situation like that, in a result like that, could be the very reason why. There's just too much pressure. You know, in the SEC, they were asked about it. They said, we're not going to talk about it. And by the way, ESPN apparently sent out a text to Ken Williamson. Hey, bro, do you care to implicate yourself by responding to this text about whether or not you did this? Okay, like, whatever, Broham. More infuriating to me is the SEC going, we're not going to comment about it. Really? That's a little suspect, don't you think? Because what else is going on? Speaking of what else is going on, Jon Gruden right now is the king of what else is going on. The NFL is seeking to dismiss this case with Jon Gruden, which I'm sure you all remember started with a bunch of leaked emails that came out. Look, I'm going to say this. This is a rare situation where everybody is right. Everybody is right. The NFL is right about Jon Gruden, but Jon Gruden is also right about the NFL. And it didn't need to be said for me to figure it out. Here's the simple fact. And by the way, this is a direct quote from the NFL's lawyer about this entire situation. Quote, Gruden does not and cannot dispute that he wrote the emails that led to his resignation. He does not and cannot dispute that he freely sent those emails to multiple parties. He does not and cannot claim that the emails were misleadingly edited or altered in any way, let alone the NFL parties, or that the views exposed in them were not in fact expressed by himself. Instead, Gruden has concocted a fictional story that attempts to paint himself as the victim of his own conduct. There is absolute validity in that statement. Jon Gruden spewed some rhetoric, and it blew up in his face. Simultaneously, let's not forget where this all began. The Washington football team, who, by the way, at the time when all this was going down, the owner threatened to bring everybody down. There were multiple alleged payouts of millions of dollars to women for harassment of all kinds, to other employees for harassment of all kinds. There were multiple situations. The whole thing happened when that team got sued, having to remove the original logo and name that they were under for the longest time. And it isn't appropriate. You wouldn't walk up and call somebody that. So all of that began with that. And then there were a bunch of emails that the NFL said, well, we're not going to release the rest of these emails. And we're not even going to tell you what the other punishments are. Literally, the NFL commissioner came out and said that. That is exactly what Roger Goodell said. We're not going to disclose the other emails, and we're not going to tell you about the other punishments. Oh, by the way, John Gruden said some racist stuff. We found that in those emails. And they knew that it would bury everything else and it would all get lost and nobody would be able to bring it up, especially John Gruden, without going, man, he's just trying to cover up the fact that he's a racist, that maybe he's a little homophobic, that maybe he said some gendered stuff that's not okay. He's just trying to cover his own tracks by making himself out to be the victim. Can't you see that? And of course, they're not going to re-bring up the fact that they locked all that away, which, by the way, initially Gruden won, where he said, I can make the details of this public. So now whatever he finds out through discovery, he can release. And now the NFL is doing everything that they can to protect themselves. Why? Because they don't want to tell you who they let off the hook. They don't want to tell you worse things that were going on. They don't want to tell you anything else or anything that anybody else potentially said, because you would find out that the whole league is like this, man. There's places in this country where, college football, for instance, is still just another form of the whip, Brody. And before a lot of these athletes were getting paid, they were basically indentured servants. Don't forget, back in the day, they used to be able to spike each other with cleats. But then they started allowing black people into the game. And oh, you can't have that. That doesn't look good for the game. In hockey, it's welcomed. In the NFL and the NBA, there's just no place for it. The point of what I'm saying is this. They're both right. The NFL is right about John Gruden. He can't diminish what he said. And he can't blame anybody else but himself for those emails. He sent them out to multiple people. Simultaneously, John Gruden is right about the NFL. They are literally using this as a way to cover their own tracks because there is something that they are literally covering up. And what they are covering up could potentially damn the league. It's that simple. Guys, I am Drew Duncan. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. I am wherever you are listening to broadcast. Take your device to play the Drew Duncan Sports Show. Everybody stay safe, take care of yourselves, and have a wonderful rest of your night and or day.